Hi everybody, this is Victoria. Welcome back to another new episode of Discovering Art Together, and today we are going to learn about skin texture from the Golden Dutch Age. So we're going to take a look at three main artists today. The first is Johannes Vermeer, the second is Anthony van Dyck, and the third is Rembrandt. So we're going to see how these three artists created their skin tones and skin texture and see what are similar between the three artists and what is different, and then we can kind of learn a little bit on how they rendered and painted their skin texture and their own styles. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. So by taking a look at these three main artists today, so we have Vermeer, we got Mr. or Sir Anthony van Dyck, we also have Rembrandt here. We want to ask ourselves the question of how did they paint their skin texture? So let's go ahead and take a look at all three paintings side by side so we can kind of look at them and compare them to one another. So I'm going to organize this in three main categories of what I've noticed by observing and kind of exploring and comparing the three portraits that we're going to look at today. The three main categories are smoothness of the skin texture, and also the color that they used for the skin textures, and then also whether if the contour is a very visible contour or does it kind of slightly bit disappear and kind of has like a hazy and softened edge. So let's start with the smoothness here. We're going to take a look. On the very left is The Girl with a Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer, and in the middle we have Anthony van Dyck's self-portrait of Sir Anthony van Dyck, and we also do have a self-portrait of Rembrandt himself from 1659. For smoothness and how well they rendered their skin texture, definitely both The Girl with the Pearl Earring and Anthony van Dyck's self-portrait are the smoothest. I would say they have a subtle different kind of smoothness to it. So if we take a closer look, let's zoom in a little bit, and as you can see, the soft transition in The Girl with the Pearl Earring is very noticeable, mostly on the nose, the under eye bag, and also around the lips, and a little bit of the core shadow of the her left face and slash cheek there. So that's where we see the softest subtle transitions of the skin texture. Now, if we take a look at Anthony van Dyck's painting, and his skin texture is also very, very smooth and very subtle, but it's slightly bit different because it has a more sharper feeling to it. So definitely we do see a lot of the softer transition on the cheek, which is a larger surface, which makes sense that you would want a softer transition there, and also on the eyebrow where that bone of our skull is, where the eye around the eye socket area. So that part is also a very soft transition, along with the forehead as well. The forehead also has that soft transition. But the other places, as we can see, which is closer to where the bridge of the nose is, and also it really depends on how the lighting is shining and emitting on the painting or the figure. That spot over there is slightly bit sharper. It has a stronger contrast between the bridge of the nose and the under eye bag. So that part is slightly bit more more sharper, but not as sharp as we would actually see a very defined outline for the eye bag. And definitely this, the lips we don't see as much. I would say it still has quite a soft transition since he does have a mustache kind of going over, where the girl with the pearl earring does not have any facial hair, let alone having any eyebrows at all as well. But yeah, so those are the two smoothest skin textures out of the three paintings, and Rembrandt has the roughest skin texture. As you can see in his, we see a lot of like nice textures, kind of, you can actually feel the roughness in his painting, and definitely he does have softer edges at certain points though, but definitely not as smooth as the Girl with a Pearl Earring and Anthony van Dyck's self-portrait. But if we take a look at some of Rembrandt's older paintings, or like when he did when he was younger, those paintings have a lot smoother texture. So he kind of evolved, where he started out with a very smooth texture for the skin, and then later on kind of wanted to explore a bit more and kind of adding a little bit more color and personality to the skin. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the colors that these artists used for their skin tones. So what I noticed between the three paintings are the color that the Girl with a Pearl Earring used has a mixture of neutral, it's slightly bit warmer, but it's very much neutral, nothing too chromatic with the color, no high chroma or super intense colors. It's very subtle, it's very neutral, so it makes it look like real skin. And Vermeer probably used a different combinations of color mixtures for the skin tones. From what I see, and kind of using today's colors in order to mix that skin texture, I would say it has a good balance of titanium white and a bit of alizarin crimson, where there's more of the pinkish colors. I would probably even use a vivid pink to have a colder effect on the skin tones, because alizarin crimson could be slightly bit too warm. If you want something that's slightly bit more colder, you can add vivid pink. And then for the shadow areas, definitely burnt umber, raw umber, and then also a bit of burnt sienna, just a teeny bit, because that gives a little bit of the warmth to there. And also it has a tinge of black and gray, but I would be really careful when you're adding neutral color tones, because that could easily dirty the skin tone while you're mixing. And definitely the lips would be a very nice alizarin crimson with a tad bit of vermilion's too orange, probably cadmium red. I would probably use that. And I do see a bit of yellow ochre in it as well, so I would also add that into the mixture of her skin tone there to create that. Yeah, so there's that. For Anthony van Dyck's portraits color, we are going to probably use as well something very neutral. His skin tone is also probably the most neutral out of all three paintings. It's a little bit more cooler than the Girl with the Pearl Earring. She has like more of a brighter, more kind of pinkish tint to it, while his is a little bit more in shadow, more muted, more gray. So in his skin tones, I would probably use a mixture of titanium white, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson would work for his. We don't technically need that vivid pink in his. Definitely a lot of black and white and kind of creating some gray and neutral tones. Mostly when you see the bottom side of his chin over there, there's a lot of gray tones and neutral tones, so I would add most of the grays the whites and the blacks there, and then definitely some burnt umber and burnt sienna for a lot of the shadows around the eyes. Even ivory black too for the darker side of the face, where pretty much like half of the other face is all in shadow, so that part I would probably do a good mixture of ivory black with burnt umber. And yeah, and then the mustache, definitely I would use a mixture of burnt sienna, burnt umber, black, probably a bit of alizarin crimson. Be a little bit careful of not adding too much because alizarin crimson does tint very easily and easy to go overboard. Okay, and then once we have that, now we are going to look at the color palette for Rembrandt's painting for his skin tones. He has a lot warmer skin tones compared to the other two paintings here. So the other two are mostly neutral, but his is a lot warmer. So with his, I would definitely use a little bit more of the burnt umber, also probably the yellow ochre as well, and then alizarin crimson, creating this nice peachy and warm color. Mostly we see a lot of that yellow and orange and peachy color on his forehead. We do see a lot more warm colors around his cheeks and also the tip of his nose as well, and definitely his lips and the chin. And definitely the shadows, I would still use a very similar color tone, so burnt umber, raw umber, burnt sienna, ivory black, and just kind of mix those to create those nice darker textures. And he does have certain spots that have more neutral tones, so if you kind of see the edge of his eyes has like a slight, it looks like blue though, but you can actually create a colder gray to create that tone, because since the face is a lot warmer in general, using a cold gray is enough to make it look blue compared to the warmer colors around it. So now we kind of learned a little bit about the colors that each artist used for their skin texture and skin tones in modern colors, or colors that we use today. So now we're going to take a look at contour and outline of each painting over here and see what's similar and what's different. Definitely the girl with a pearl earring has a lot more disappearing contours and outlines. Mostly if we do take a closer look at the nose on the very left side pretty much disappears. We don't see the tip of the nose or the exact outline of the nose, but we still see it there because of where the eye socket is placed, and then our brain kind of makes up that missing information, even though that Vermeer did not actually specifically paint a contour line or outline for the nose. And then same thing, he did a really great job with softening and having really soft disappearing edges for the lips, which makes it so smooth, and it makes it feel like it's just naturally fading in and connecting, and it just kind of makes the whole face and painting and skin as one. Now, Anthony Van Dyck's, despite his painting and skin texture being really smooth, his contours are a lot more defined compared to the girl with pearl earring. As you can see, we do have a lot more defined lines and contour for the nose mainly, the eyes definitely, and also the bottom side of the jaw and the chin. Even for the mustache, we do see quite the clear contour, and also for the lips as well. So his has a nice combination of having a soft skin texture but still defined, so we can actually see clearly where the contour line is, except for the side where there's a lot of shadow. So that side, it makes sense that he would want to have a lot of the edges and contours soften down and disappear into the shadow so that it doesn't attract our attention, because anything that's super sharp, super focused will attract our eyes and it will make us look at that specific spot. So he did great. And Rembrandt. Rembrandt, surprisingly, he also has a softer contour. You would think that, like, since he has, like, the really rough skin texture and stuff, so everything would be super sharp. But no, he did a great balance of actually adding lots of soft contours. If you can see the left side of his face, that part is very much disappearing into the shadows. And it's really softly rendered, and it's really subtle. We don't see an exact contour to it, but it's very soft compared to Anthony Van Dyck's, which is a lot more defined. And the same thing with the side where the face is connecting to the hairline. That part is also a very soft contour. Any of the other spots, once we get closer to the eyes and the nose, it's slightly a bit more defined, and also the eyebrows too, it's a lot more sharper, a little bit more defined. So Rembrandt has like a good balance between the two. So he's kind of have like a mixture of the defined contour that Anthony Van Dyck does around the eye area and the nose, and then he has the soft and disappearing outline and contour that the girl with the pearl earring has around the hairline and also the outside line or the contour of the face. Okay, and that is it for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this new episode about skin texture from the Golden Dutch Age and kind of seeing what each artist did similar and differently between the skin textures that they create for their portraits. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit on the smoothness of skin texture depending on what you're looking for, and also the colors that they use, whether if you want a warmer skin tone, a cooler skin tone, or a more neutral skin tone, and definitely the defined contour. So if you want to have a more defined, more visible contour, or did you want to have a little bit more obscure contour where it kind of disappears and loses the edge and kind of creates a very it makes us imagine and kind of make up the information for that disappeared contour. So a mini exercise for you guys this week. So try out and kind of paint different types of skin textures. So you can go ahead and take examples from these three paintings that we looked at today and seeing the soft skin textures compared to the more rougher skin textures, and just kind of play around and see what you like, because now we kind of know the difference between the three paintings, and then we know that we have these three different choices. We can either have like a soft and smooth, and you can kind of have a more sharper defined contour, or you can do the opposite of that and just kind of experiment just to see what you like and what you want to express through the portraits and what kind of skin texture you want to create. Okay, and that's it for today. So looking forward to sharing more new discoveries about art with you guys and sharing thoughts, ideas, and explore a bit more to see what else we could actually learn from the old masters and other tips and advice from videos, art articles, and so much more. So I'll see you guys next week in the new video, but take care, stay creative, have fun trying out and experimenting to help improve your art skills, your painting skills, and just be inspired. Okay, and I'll see you guys next week, but take care and have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Bye!